A good Wednesday to you, everybody. It is the Dennis Prager Show for this August 25th, 2021. Mark Davis in for Dennis one day. What is the evidence that Dennis is not here? Number one, Rolling Stones intro music heralding the passing of Charlie Watts at the age of 80 yesterday. I don't know if Dennis would have rolled out a lot of Stones tunes today. Don't know if that's his wheelhouse, but Dennis will be back where everybody wants him to be, in the chair tomorrow. In the meantime, great to be with you. Mark Davis, your occasional fill-in buddy here at 660 a.m. The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth, where I am blessed with the best talk show prep that I can possibly do for the Dennis Prager Show, and that's doing my own morning show every day here in thriving DFW. And having just finished this morning's Wednesday local show, let me share with you some of what we were banging around. Obviously, a lot of it is Afghanistan. Obviously, a lot of it is continuing COVID policy and tug of war right here, especially in my state of Texas. You think we got a few things going on around here? As our governor has said, you know, school districts, local government, you cannot have mask mandates. There's an executive order that gives him that authority. There's legislation that gives him the authority to carve out that executive order. And we have school districts going rogue all over the state, saying, well, guess what? Sort of flipping him the metaphoric bird and saying we're doing mask mandates anyway. So those court battles continue. And as the variant rears its head, and I don't know about you, depends on what's going on in your state or what part of the country you're in. I'm seeing more masks slapped on the faces of people. They're probably kind of fearful of things going on. Not me. I am happily maskless because I'm happily vaccinated. Since we haven't talked in a long time about COVID policy, it's Dr. Fauci on the video feed. Thanks so much. Obviously, you can go to DennisPrager.com and witness the spectacle, and we always appreciate you being here and listening and watching wherever and whenever you may be. There's a big debate afoot. In fact, let me give you the phone numbers. Let's dive into a number of things. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We'll talk some COVID policy. We'll talk mask tug-of-wars, vax wars, whatever you want to do. In real wars, Afghanistan, everybody has their own specific take on how this could have been avoided. I will share mine with you. I've got a couple of things sort of in my talk show pocket that I want to share with you, things that on days when I do the Prager Show, just sort of thematic stuff off the shelf that I always want to sort of bounce off of people. One today will involve if your kid is starting college this week, because mine is. And we have been blissfully spared something that I'm hearing a great deal about from things that are at orientations or sort of first day class meetings where they have everybody get up and say, who are you? Where are you from? And they got a sort of another little question for the kiddos. And I want to see what you think, what you want your kid to do, or maybe what your kid already did in response to that particular question. And I don't think I've brought this up here on the Prager Show. I've talked about it locally a few times. You ever sit around your house talking about something and you're not Googling it, you're not doing a web search on it, you're not Facebooking it, you're not interacting with anything or anybody except maybe another human being in the room, and you talk about something, and a couple hours later you have a Facebook ad about it on your feed? How did that get there? Mysteries large and small on today's Dennis Prager Show, guest hosted by me, your buddy Mark Davis. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K. Davis, appreciate you very, very much. And here's something a lot of folks appreciate. I start my own local show with it. And I've suppose almost every time I've done Dennis's show, I do as well. So join me if you are of a mind to do so. Lord, guide us and protect us as we face the challenges of each new day. We thank you every day for this blessed nation and for your hand in creating it. Fill our hearts with the energy to protect the freedoms which come from you, which our nation was founded to protect. And Lord, be with us as we chart a course out of this COVID nightmare. Help us to be smart and safe as we reclaim our lives. Guide us to fight for our liberties within the law and by following your law. Let us navigate these troubling times with a positive spirit, treating others as we would want to be treated. Lord, these are times of trial and times of challenge. Lift us as we follow your word and work for a better America, where our Constitution is honored, our elections are reliable, our borders work, where we fight for the unborn, and where our differences are hashed out with honesty and goodwill. And our freedoms of speech and worship are protected. As we face each day's problems, give us the clarity to look around and cherish our many blessings in our nation, our communities, and our families. We follow you, Lord. We know we can get through anything. And we ask these things in your holy name. Amen. All right. Telephone number again, 888-PRAGER-776. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Sorry, I messed that up first time. Been a while. 1-8-PRAGER-776. The lovely Jennifer has taken your calls at that number. Freshly married, so congratulate the newlywed when you go through her to get to me. Sound good? All right. That's the gauntlet we make you run. It is not brutal. Basically, name, who are you? What do you want to talk about? And at that point, leave it to me. Well, I could turn anybody interesting in 60 seconds. And maybe you already are. I'll bet that's the case. The Prager audience is among the best in talk radio. So before I get to y'all, which I'm going to do pretty well post haste right after this first break here in just a couple of minutes, let me give you my Afghanistan paragraph because, oh, by the way, we may be treated to Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And isn't this just an inspiring group of people? Don't you just have the feeling? And I'm going to tell you something. In fact, we're a few days into this. I could spend an hour talking about how incompetent Biden is, but you know that. I could spend another hour talking about how preventable this was, but you know that. Or you should, anyway. And the way it's preventable is by leaving 1,000 or 2,000 troops at Bagram Airfield, as Trump would have done, as I've talked about for months, as my dog would have done if he'd been in charge of everything. You don't evacuate all the troops and then somehow, by hook or by crook or by miracle, try to get out the remaining civilians. In God's name, what kind of sense does that make? This is a cluster for the ages. It is a global embarrassment for the United States. And I tell you what I keep coming back to, and it just makes me crazy. What did everybody tell us? Oh, that Trump freaked the world out. And now finally with Biden, there's a steadiness. America is she was not respected. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. America is back, whatever that means. Yeah, back kowtowing to Europe. Back in the thrall of elites all over the world. Oh, we're back, all right. Back to where we were pre-Trump during Obama and other presidents, Democrat and Republican, who just didn't have the stones to do what was necessary with tin horns and tyrants and terrorists. And Trump did. And you may have taken a couple of moments of umbrage or taken exception to the mean tweets or something else about him stylistically. Great, whatever. But in terms of the policies, in terms of the stances, because the one thing that kept the world safer is a whole lot of tin horns and tyrants and terrorists and misbehaving regimes. They didn't know what this guy was going to do. They didn't know what he would do. They know exactly what Biden will do, or should I say what he will not do. And this has been a failure of epic proportions, and I don't know how we get out of it. My questions for you are as follows. 1-8-PRAGER-776. How much do the American people care? I'm old enough to remember Vietnam. This is worse. Why? Because I was all on board with fighting communism in Southeast Asia. Thank God for everybody who went and fought in that war. We didn't do it right. We didn't treat them right. But the notion of fighting communism in Southeast Asia was noble then, is noble now. And we lost. We cut and run. There was no way we were going to win. We were not going to turn Vietnam into glowing green glass, so we got to go. And there's a related logic. Now, we were not going to turn Afghanistan into Indiana. We weren't going to turn Afghanistan into a Jeffersonian democracy. So what was the goal? The goal was to be there residually as a backstop, as some kind of bulwark against terrorist inclinations. And we were doing it. There's been no hot war in Afghanistan for the better part of a decade because we were there, residually there. Not anymore. and it's all just swirling into a hellish cauldron. What do you think ought to happen? Mark Davis in for Dennis, 1-8-PRAGER-776, and we're going to your calls next on a Wednesday. Thanks for being here.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real world.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it. Because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them, take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifying
Sounds like good advice. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Great to have you here. As I get ready to hear from you, I want you to hear from one of my favorite members of Congress, Congressman Michael Waltz, Republican of Florida. He was just on with Harris Faulkner on Fox after they went through a torturous Pentagon news conference with a wonderful man. All these people have served. Admiral John Kirby is the Pentagon press secretary. God help him. I mean, all he can do is be the mouthpiece for some of this nonsense that's going on. But here was Congressman Michael Waltz of Florida talking about just the disconnect. But have you noticed in the days of this week that President Biden will attempt to string together sentences in the English language, and they will contain things that just seem to be just provably false.
Look, there's just such an ongoing disconnect, Harris, between the happy talk that we're seeing out of the White House, from political appointees, from the president himself, from Kirby, that things are fine and dandy. They may be a little bumpy, but they're going as planned. And then what our own staffs and offices are seeing on the ground. We've had to go operational out of the United States Congress, talking to airport managers, gate guards, helping American citizens avoid Taliban checkpoints. Just before coming here, one of my team told me that an SIV applicant with visa in hand had their phones taken from them and smashed to the ground by the Taliban and told to turn around. The reason we're having to go operational, the reason retired special forces officers and intelligence officials are taking matters into their own hands is because it's not going well, because of such a lack of leadership and clarity from this administration.
That is Congressman Michael Waltz of Florida. He and Mike McCall, a congressman here in Texas, were on Fox the last hour. Let me start to grab some calls from you guys and intersperse some of your thoughts and mine on various issues. Always enjoy a little topical variety here whenever I come in and host for Dennis. 1-8-Prager-776. And then as we work our way through the hour, I'm going to digitally save any comments we get here from our current Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, another inspiring figure in this gallery of pinhead academics who are trying to run foreign policy. We are, as we begin, in Van Etten, New York. Hey, John, Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Wednesday to you. How are you?
Hi, Mark. My comment is I've always believed that Neville Chamberlain was the biggest idiot in the world signing a non-aggression treaty with Hitler.
Yeah.
And I think that Joe Biden's doing the exact same thing with the Taliban. I mean, how stupid is that?
I know, and it's if you take a look at the circle, Neville Chamberlain is a British Prime Minister of the 30s, was sort of retroactively unfortunate in his bad character judgment. Not to keep invoking my dog, but I got a golden retriever who knows what the Taliban are. And to willfully, kowtow to them is something of stunning scope in terms of ineptitude. 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. We are in Port Washington, Wisconsin. Hey, Susan. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
We save any comments you get here from Mark.
Got to listen to the radio and not the phone and not the radio. Hey, Susan, let's give it another try. How are you?
This gallery of pinhead.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I know what her question was, and I'm going to answer it for her and thus for you. People very, very kindly ask where they can get a copy of the prayer that I opened the show with. I have a serious answer, but first, every time I hear something like that, I'm taken back to old Saturday Night Live when it was funny. And during Weekend Update, Kevin Nealon at one point said, if you'd like a transcript of tonight's program, take out a pencil and write down everything I say. Now, I'm not going to be that glib, but here's the deal. I do it every day at the beginning of my local show. So let me send you to the local website where I've got podcasts of every show I ever do for your listening and dancing pleasure. And that is 660amtheanswer.com, 660amtheanswer.com. If you go to there right now, there's this morning show that I just finished doing. If you go to the 7 o'clock hour and crank that puppy up, there I am doing that prayer at the beginning of that. Just pause it, stop it, start it, and just type it on out. And there you'll have the golden transcript. I wing it sometimes. I cover some of the main themes, so I might want to catch a couple of versions there. And it's not like it was something I spent forever. You want to know the history of it? As long as I've got you, I'll beat you down with the history on this a little bit. It was COVID. March of last year, it was spring break, and I was on vacation. Remember vacation? And in the middle of the week, in the middle of like the second week of March, the world ended. Tom Hanks got it. The NBA shut down. Masks thrust their way into our lives, as did the virus. And I was on vacation. Now, it was a staycation. I wasn't, out in the far-flung, wilderness anywhere. So it was a pretty simple matter to make a couple of phone calls and end my own vacation. And I came back on a Thursday. It was a Wednesday night. My wife and I were at a wonderful Dallas restaurant, and we had like our servers and the wine guy and people at other tables were like, "Hey, you hear this? You hear that? The NBA just shut down its entire season. Its entire season. What are you talking about?" It was that mid-March last year when everything just started to collapse around us. So it's pretty hard to drag me off the vacation trail. I got a work ethic as good as anybody's, but vacation's vacation. But it was pretty clear that I had to retake the reins of my own show. So I informed the wonderful gentleman who was to be my fill-in host the next day. I said, "I'm sorry, dude, I need the show back." He said, "Totally understand." And as I walked in and sat down, I said, "I'm going to be talking to people who are freaking out because this is terrible. And I have a feeling it's going to grab us by the throat for a really long time." And in my actual life, what occurs to me to do in moments like that is to talk to God and to thank him even when things are terrible. And I thought, I've for a long time never been shy about matters of faith or talking about how those things guide me. I mean, I don't proselytize all day, but when faith becomes an issue, I'll talk to you about it all day and share the ways in which it has motivated and guided me. And all the while, extending all the freedom to you to be of whatever faith you wish or no faith at all, kind of like America does. All right. But I thought, if I got 60 seconds at the beginning of the show to actually gather folks who are of a mind to do so and talk to God and ask his guidance through these really difficult times, I thought that seems like time well spent. And many have agreed. And then I got to thinking, okay, how long am I going to do this? Will COVID at some point get better where I don't have to do the prayer anymore? And I thought, at some point COVID will get better. And by the way, it did. Guess what? Never stopped doing it. And you know what? COVID could go away tomorrow. And I'm still doing it because I like it. And a lot of other people do too. So thank you. All righty, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Let's see here. Why don't we, we're going to be pretty quick here. In fact, let me get on out of here. That moment of blather took up just enough time to end the segment. Mark Davis in for Dennis. More of your calls are next, I promise. Stick around.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: "The right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason." They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy, and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is really it's crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That was textbook. Nobody, not even Julius Caesar, not Napoleon, could do it better. But since then, at the strategic level, Kurt, it's been a disaster.
It's been an utter disaster, and frankly, I'm worried about the tactical level. I'm worried that whether or not we still maintain the tactical capabilities that we need for high-intensity combat operations against peer-level competitors like the Chinese, especially, and I write about this in my Monday Town Hall column, Dr. Gorka, especially when you look at the Navy. For nearly 70 years, it has glided on the legacy of the military triumphs in the Pacific theater over the Japanese. And we relied on, we consoled ourselves saying, well, you know, the Chinese technology is getting better. They're getting more and more ships, but we have a naval tradition. You know what? So did the Carthaginians. Okay, the Romans had no navy until they found a Carthaginian warship that had run aground. They copied it, they trained, and they beat the hell out of Carthage. You can find Roman ruins, can't find any Carthaginian ruins.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Essentially, that's inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. This from Reuters. Tyson Foods Incorporated cannot increase prices for chicken and prepared foods fast enough to keep pace with rising costs for raw materials like grain due to Bidenflation. Bidenflation. Say it with me. Tyson increased their prices to their restaurant customers, and you're thinking like, okay, so what? I don't care if they increase it to their restaurant customers. That's for people that are going out. We're not going out to eat anymore. It's not going to affect us. Aha. Yes, it will. As of September.
I know what I think. That's awesome. Lord, a search engine looking at Dennis's brain. Is there enough bandwidth in the universe for that? That's awesome. That is great. Now, for my comparatively meager comparison a moment ago, as I sent you to my local show for, the opening prayer or anything else I do, it just occurred to me that my own Twitter feed is the best place for that, at Mark Davis, because I put up a podcast of the entire morning show. I just did it moments ago for this morning show, so you don't have to go hopping through the 660amtheanswer.com website, hoops and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Just go to my Twitter feed, which is the center of all known things there, at Mark Davis. Speaking of things I know, take a look at your cell phone bill. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, you're getting hosed. I want you to switch to Pure Talk. Pure Talk can save your family over $800 a year. Same great coverage, because Pure Talk's on the exact same network as all those other big three, but at a fraction of the price. And switching is as easy as switching out a SIM card. Keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Dennis tells the story of getting the iPhone 12 and loving that. And plus, right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. And if you go over on data, you're not going to get charged for that. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of our friends at AMAC. So from your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager, pound 250, Dennis Prager, and your Pure Talk adventure begins. All right, our calling adventure continues as we head back to your calls. Mark Davison for Dennis, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Back to the Empire State, fresh, brand new governor and Kathy Hochul. How's that working out? That is Paul. Hello, sir. Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Well, Kathy Hochul is in, and we'll just have to see how that goes.
Yes.
My point is, and everybody is running around wringing their hands about how incompetent Joe Biden and his administration is, and I have no argument with that. I could certainly agree with it, but that's not really where I think the focus should be. The focus should be on who's running Joe Biden. He couldn't run a lemonade stand at this point in his career, so that means somebody else is pulling the strings, and it looks to me, if you just look at it through the lens of the smell test, like they're completely sold out to possibly the Chi-Coms and others. I mean,
or people who are. I don't see direct, marionette strings from Beijing, but this entire administration is beholden to so many unsavory forces and factors, and these are people. In some cases, there's ineptitude. That's Afghanistan. In some cases, there is willful malfeasance, like the border. People say Biden doesn't have a plan at the border. Yes, he does. This is the plan at the border, to allow waves upon waves of unvetted immigrants to just pour into America so that they can vanish into the landscape, vanish into the tapestry, scarcely to be heard from again, awaiting their court dates, right, until they can vanish and be atomized out across all of our time zones, only to resurface years later after they have been normalized, legalized, naturalized, and energized for decades of grateful Democrat voting. So it's funny when this administration knows what it's doing. When this administration does not know what it's doing, bad things happen. When this administration does know what it's doing, bad things happen. 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Wisconsin. Wes, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing?
Hey, Mark. Good day to you, and greetings from the beautiful Northwoods of Wisconsin.
Hi.
Mark, I'm going to switch gears for a second. Although I think I'm the first one to believe that Biden is certainly mentally deficient and certainly was moronic in the way he is withdrawing from Afghanistan. But I'd like to discuss with you, as briefly as possible. We had 4 administrations that literally could not figure out a way to defeat a band of 75,000 Afghans, with us being the world's #1 superpower. So I really blame 3 presidents before him, as much as I blame Biden for getting us into this mess and not getting us out of it successfully.
It's not unfair. It's not unfair to spread consideration and regard across every presidency for the last 20 years. That's not unfair. I'll give the short version, then the longer version. We were never going to turn Afghanistan into a Western democracy. All we could hope to do is keep it from becoming a terrorist hotbed. We were doing that. Trump would have kept it as one, even while drawing down most forces out of there. And what we have now is it's as if we were never there. A residual force of 1,000 or so would have kept this from happening. Be right back. All right.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years. and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it, because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them, take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion.
Nirvana, you can tell it's a fill-in host day, but there's a reason for this. Hi again, Mark Davis in for Dennis. Nirvana's Come As You Are, because there's an actual Nirvana news story that I share only as further evidence of the insanity that is commonly rampant around the world. For those of you, and listen, you can be, knocking on senior citizen years and own this album. It was when Kurt Cobain and Dave Grohl and the boys, became a big deal 30-ish years ago. And you remember the album cover? It was an album called Nevermind. And it had Smells Like Teen Spirit and all those, big Nirvana hits. And it was a naked baby swimming, a shot of a baby naked swimming underwater with like a dollar bill imposed over it, like the baby was chasing the dollar. It was like a statement on capitalism or something, or I don't even know what. Why would I be telling you this? Well, that baby, obviously, now a 30-year-old dude. His name is Spencer Eldon. And he is suing. His lawsuit alleges that the 1991 Nirvana album Nevermind, the cover, is pornography, and because there's a dollar bill. Oh, there you go on the video stream. There you are. Oh, good Lord, there he is, grown up. Oh, God. There's a piece of work. First of all, I'd think that would be the coolest thing in the world. If I'm 31 years old, it's like I'd use that in bars. Not that you could confirm it or anything, like, hey, guess what album cover this guy is on. I don't know how you'd prove that. Nonetheless, he says that the album cover is porn and that the dollar bill superimposed on it makes him look like a sex worker. Oh, Lord. Spencer. It says Kurt Cobain chose the image depicting him grabbing for a dollar bill, positioned dangling from a fish hook in front of it. Well, I'm not even going to. So just Google the story, just a continuing library of insanity. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Speaking of that, it does give me the opportunity to take a side trip of one of the things I mentioned I was going to tell you as we open the show, because plenty of Afghanistan, plenty of, COVID policy, plenty of this, plenty of that. Always open to that. Anything you want at 1-8-Prager-776. But I've got a call and a gentleman in California who's going to talk about this with me. I said, you ever been sitting around your house? You're not on your laptop, not on your smartphone, just talking about something. Just, heaven forbid, talking about something with another human being. Talking about taking a trip somewhere. Hey, we ought to go to, some Greek island. Hey, we ought to go to this location in French Polynesia. We ought to do that. Yeah, let's do. 2-3 hours later, ads for the travel destinations that you were just talking about on your Facebook feed. What in the world is going on there? Now, we've had that happen a couple of times at the house. Happened yesterday. My wonderful wife, Lisa, my hero every day, we had a wonderful vacation up at Red River, New Mexico, and we drove from it was like 10 hours. It was awesome. Split it in 2 days. Amarillo, then Red River. And we did all kinds of active things. And I don't know if it's kind of come back to haunt her a little bit. I don't know, but she's had a little bit of back pain. She has a really good chiropractor. And this particular chiropractor said, you know what we're going to do? Just because this problem just isn't resolving. So we're going to do a little something. We're going to do some spinal decompression. So I've heard of that before. And so she mentions the words spinal decompression to me in a conversation yesterday morning. After dinner, Facebook ad on her feed, some special pillow of some sort. It's just like spinal decompression. Now, doggone it, man. How does this happen? And I know there's some algorithm. I mean, listen, sometimes we Google things and we don't know it. It could be anything. I don't know. But there's some of this is just weird. And we are in California, and Homer called in about that. Homer, what is your theory, sir? Welcome. Mark Davis in for dinner. Dennis, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Good morning, and God bless you, Mark. Appreciate the prayer to start things off, which
thank you.
We dearly need. I think it's probably Siri or Alexa, something like that.
I mean, we got them both. I mean, I've got iPhones all over the house, and I got Alexa over in the corner.
Right, and I do not have one. My daughter has one in her home, and it's just a weird thing when you, out of the blue, you'll ask a question, and here it comes. So, I don't know. It's always listening, so who knows?
Indeed so, and thank you. How many of you who are particularly attentive heard it happen in this room? I've got one of those things in the corner of my house, and I've got one in here. And as soon as I just said her name, here, hang on a minute. Let me drag her over here. Let's do something. Alexa, what's the capital of Texas?
Texas's capital is Austin.
Thank you. But sometimes if I just, it'll happen on the show all the time. We'll be talking about the Amazon smart speaker, and I will say her name that begins with A, and then that's the wake up word, and she'll just go, I don't know the answer to that. It's like, I didn't mean to do that. Stop listening to me. So, and they say they're not listening. They say they're not listening to your normal everyday. And I don't want to go tinfoil hat conspiratorial. I really don't. But the thing has to have ears in a certain way in order to hear the wake up word, right? So is it listening to you even when it's not on? Yes. What they want us to believe is that it's only listening for the wake up word. And as long as I'm sitting here talking about war, disease, famine, pestilence, the Cowboys, that it's not paying attention. But if I say the wake-up word, suddenly it's like, now I'm listening to you. I'm prepared. I'm prepared to believe that, I guess. But just explain this to me, Lucy. How? And I know this has happened to you. It's probably happened 6 or 7 total times to us. I mean, definitive. And sometimes I can figure it out. It's like, oh, I did Google that earlier today. And if I Google something, all bets are off. Then I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up in 14 Facebook ads. If I Google about, some swimming trunks without mesh, it's like, bah, here's 14 swimming trunks without mesh. I totally get that. But sometimes it'll just be a conversation I'm having with my wife, or just something that in no way am I plugged in any device, and I will get Facebook ads about it, or just some other online advertising about that thing within hours. Again, to invoke the great Robert Klein. Ooh, ooh. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Right back.
This is really crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military, when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That was textbook. Nobody, not even Julius Caesar, not Napoleon, could do it better. But since then, at the strategic level, Kurt, it's been a disaster.
It's been an utter disaster, and frankly, I'm worried about the tactical level. I'm worried that whether or not we still maintain the tactical capabilities that we need for high-intensity combat operations against peer-level competitors like the Chinese, especially, and I write about this in my Monday Town Hall column, Dr. Gorka, especially when you look at the Navy. For nearly 70 years, it has glided on the legacy of the military triumphs in the Pacific theater over the Japanese. And we relied on, we consoled ourselves saying, well, the Chinese technology is getting better. They're getting more and more ships, but we have a naval tradition. You know what? So did the Carthaginians. Okay, the Romans had no navy until they found a Carthaginian warship that had run aground. They copied it, they trained, and they beat the hell out of Carthage. You can find Roman ruins, can't find any Carthaginian ruins.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Essentially, that's inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. This from Reuters. Tyson Foods Incorporated cannot increase prices for chicken and prepared foods fast enough to keep pace with rising costs for raw materials like grain due to Bidenflation. Bidenflation. Say it with me. Tyson increased their prices to their restaurant customers, and you're thinking like, okay, so what? I don't care if they increase it to their restaurant customers. That's for people that are going out. We're not going out to eat anymore. It's not going to affect us. Aha. Ah.
It is the PragerU fundraising push, as a matter of fact. So make sure you do what Dennis said, and I'll give you some more details on that in the coming hour. 1-8-Prager-776. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Let's finish up this hour with some telephone action and then continue topically into the hours that follow. We are in Saratoga, New York, and Mark, that is you. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Wednesday. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
These vaccine mandates are authoritarianism at its worst. It is tearing this country asunder, and I believe that our rights are being violated. And I am ashamed that the court system has not put a stop to this. And it is not about whether or not I think it is science. I believe in the science. It's our liberty that is being violated.
So let's break it down a little bit in the time that we have. There may be mandates. We can either like or not like all the mandates. Of the ones that we don't like, some seem to be flat out unconstitutional. Others don't. And there's a great debate over whether government should be able to tell you to wrap your face in something. I am completely with you in that regard. If a business says, hey, you know what? We want masks on everybody. They can totally do that, and then you can either walk in there or not walk in there. But with government, you only got one government in terms of one state government, one federal government. And if there's any lesson that I hope we have learned, that I hope we take away from this, is that we better not get lazy, lackadaisical about our liberties moving forward, because this ain't the last. We ain't done with this one, and it's not the last virus we're ever going to have. And just to have some sweeping observations to close out this first hour, we've all been learning as we go in this terrible, terrible, year and a half, more than year and a half of the virus. Everybody freaked out, and we decided to put all of our eggs in the virus mitigation basket. It's like we must do everything to mitigate the virus. And we didn't worry about destroying people's lives. We didn't worry about destroying people's livelihoods. We didn't worry about destroying our children's educations. We didn't worry about destroying our social interactions. We didn't worry about destroying anything. We blew it all up on the altar of virus mitigation. And it was very, very wrong. Now, if we'd done it in a way that I might describe as right, might we have a few more dead people? We probably would. But maybe our kids' educations would be better. Maybe your retirement account would still be there. Maybe your dad wouldn't have died alone in a home. There are no solutions. There will never be solutions in things like this. There are only trade-offs. More of this, less of that. More of that, less of this. And we're learning the path of trade-offs. And it's been a hard lesson. Mark Davis in for Dennis. 1 hour down, 2 to go. Much more to come. Join us. 1-8-Prager-776. Be right back with you.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism, and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years. It will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it. Because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them, take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: the right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason. They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is really crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military, when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That was textbook. Nobody, not even Julius Caesar, not Napoleon, could do it better. But since then, at the strategic level, Kurt, it's been a disaster.
It's been an utter disaster, and frankly, I'm worried about the tactical level. I'm worried that whether or not we still maintain the tactical capabilities that we need for high-intensity combat operations against peer-level competitors like the Chinese, especially, and I write about this in my Monday Town Hall column, Dr. Gorka, especially when you look at the Navy. For nearly 70 years, it has glided on the legacy of the military triumphs in the Pacific theater over the Japanese. And we relied on, we consoled ourselves saying, well, you know, the Chinese technology is getting better. They're getting more and more ships, but we have a naval tradition. You know what? So did the Carthaginians. Okay, the Romans had no navy until they found a Carthaginian warship that had run aground. They copied it, they trained, and they beat the hell out of Carthage. You can find Roman ruins, can't find any Carthaginian ruins.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Essentially, that's inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. This from Reuters. Tyson Foods Incorporated cannot increase prices for chicken and prepared foods fast enough to keep pace with rising costs for raw materials like grain due to Bidenflation. Bidenflation. Say it with me. Tyson increased their prices to their restaurant customers. And you're thinking like, okay.
Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. Mark Davis filling in. And some stones to celebrate the life, the legacy, the drum work of Charlie Watts, who passed away at 80 yesterday. Little Rock and a Hard Place from Steel Wheels, 1989. God bless Charlie Watts. That was a drummer. All righty, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. If you're just joining us, as will happen these days, this week, plenty on Afghanistan, stuff to talk about, plenty to lament, plenty to analyze. I got a number of layered questions to pose before you. COVID policy, the talk show gift that keeps on giving, mask battles, vaccine battles, and a couple of just things that I've plucked from the periphery. Our devices listening to us. I was talking about just the latest episode of this in our lives as Lisa and I were talking about the spinal decompression treatment she's going to be getting for a little bit. Just talked about it. Didn't Google it. Wasn't on the phone about it. Then 6 hours later, she's got an ad for some pillow that bills itself as being just like spinal decompression. This is like the fifth, sixth time it's happened to us. And listen, if you talk about, going to Hawaii, and then you get an ad about vacation rentals in Hawaii, that's Hawaii. That's probably a coincidence. But if you're talking about some specific little town in Italy, which was happening once, somewhere on the Amalfi Coast, and I get something about a vacation rental in that little tiny town, it's like, please, something is listening to me. And it's funny because, isn't that weird? But what exactly the heck is going on there? And so there's that too. And let's see, what else? I do have a kind of a running premise, just chronicling this every day. And I know this sounds like conservative talk radio red meat, but is this the worst presidency of my lifetime? I go back a while. I'll be 64 in November. I was born during Eisenhower's second term. So I start on a pretty high point. Then you get to JFK, and I could go through each president. But the main candidates, for worst president ever for me, and to be bipartisan about this, it's going to be all the Democrats are up for consideration, and then Nixon. Nixon's exit was terrible. That was just a total self-created meltdown. But in terms of policies, there was some genius in the Nixon years. Didn't agree with everything retroactively. He resigned between my junior and senior year of high school. First president I voted for was Jerry Ford in 1976. I tried to prevent the Carter administration. Didn't have enough company. So my first real candidate for worst presidency ever was Carter. And at the time I thought, this is it. Little did I know what lay ahead. And I've said more than once during this 7 months of hell that we've been through, that this Biden 7 months makes Obama look more innocuous by comparison, makes Clinton look positively Churchillian, and Carter was just a good guy with some bad policies. This is trailblazing disaster. So this is not just red meat. It is not just the broadcast showmanship of the moment. Because what should we measure this by? Think of the reasons why you vote for a president. Think of the reasons why you are a conservative, if you are one. Oh, and by the way, if you're not, you're welcome to. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Think of the reason why you're a liberal. What are the criteria? You want policies you agree with on, I'm on a roll. Here we go. Things like borders. They've never been more porous. Things like the economy. We've never had ruinous plans for spending like this. You look just sort of for rational policies, and yet we have all kinds of things that are coming our way. We're walking into a buzzsaw of this pernicious Green New Deal that is going to sacrifice our livelihoods and our economy on the altar of junk science. You take a look at our culture. God help us with the direction the culture is taking, all with the approval of the Democrat Party led by Joe Biden. You take a look at crime. You take a look at any one of our position around the world, foreign policy. This is an unheralded disaster. So, thoughts about that, and an unequaled one in my considerable lifetime. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Lansing, Michigan. Darren, hey, Mark Davis, in for Dennis. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. How are you?
Well, as Dennis would say, better than my country.
It's wisely put. Wisely put.
Yes, and well, Dennis has many. No, I just want to, on the Afghanistan stuff, all these conflicting reports we're getting from the overall administration. They talk about 88,000 have been evacuated in 8 days. You do the math, it doesn't happen. These people can't even get there. They can get to the gate, but they can't get in. So, that's a lie. And the other thing that really is irking me besides this is that, there are so many private entities that have the resources, the people that are willing to risk their lives to go save people, and they're waiting on a permission slip from the State Department. And to me, that is across the board craziness.
Let's spend a minute on that. First, you have a couple of very good points. All the numbers, all the expectations, it's all so murky. Partly because it is such a disaster. I can't, with all the criticism I have of this administration, I don't expect them to have down to the last human being numbers of how many people are coming out today, how many people came out yesterday, how many people we want to come out tomorrow. But just some broad brush would be nice. Some idea that they have some tenuous grasp on how bad the problem is. That would be, just give it a try. They don't want to, because if they give you a goal of how many people they want to get out, and they fall short of that goal, they've set themselves up for bad optics. Now, let's spend a moment on your last point, which is pretty intriguing. Private entities, just folks, of whatever capacity, who might want to duck into Afghanistan and do what we seem unable or unwilling to do. Can we just let people do that? I mean, I know you described the frustration of having to have the State Department sign off on all of it, and they certainly should give people pretty wide latitude on that if it comes to this, especially after August 31st. But, I don't know if we can just let, Joe Blow, who has a plane, land in a Kabul suburb and get 14 people taken hostage.
I'm not talking about that. I am talking about established organizations who actually have vetted these people, which have supposedly the government. Yep. But, we left all that information to the Taliban when we abandoned the embassy.
That we did.
They have the Nazarene Fund, for example, another talk show host that I know you know well. He's over there ready to go. But they need a permission slip to get these people out. And whether, these people are unvetted, if country ABC says, we'll take them and figure it out later, let's get them out. And then let them deal with it. We're not bringing them here, at least directly. But, and the other thing, as far as how many have been supposedly evacuated, the last report I heard, there's also 11,000 Americans yet to go.
Oh, there may be more than that. And again, I don't pretend that I know, because I don't think anybody does. The people who I'd expect to have the best estimates are the people whose job it is to have some situational awareness, some level of situational awareness. And we have so little because we did this so wrongly. And I kind of got rushed by the clock at the end of the last hour. The bottom line is this, and I absolutely know Trump would have done this. Was he all about withdrawing? Yes, he was about withdrawing before a whole lot of conservatives were. I remain thankful that President Bush took the war after 9/11 into the part of the world that wanted to kill us. I'm glad he did that. I think there was benefit to doing that. 5, 6, 10, 15 years later, you got to evaluate where you are. And I think most people, even those who have favored the war on terror, whatever you want to call it, realized that it was time to draw down in Afghanistan. But a complete cut and run? No. You leave 1,000, you leave 2,000 troops at Bagram Airfield to let the Taliban know we can touch you if you misbehave. Our failure to do that is why this disaster rages. Mark Davis and for Dennis, right back.
Haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it. Because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them, take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: the right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason. They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy, and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
this is really crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military, when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That
and we decide we want everybody to wear a mask, we can have a mask rule because it's our business. If you and I run a cake decorating shop and somebody comes in and says, we want you to make a cake with a gay theme, we can say no to that because that is a right that we have as a business, not to have our basic values contorted by a specific consumer request.
That you cannot.
I'm sorry, back up again, I'm sorry.
You cannot refuse to make that wedding cake. It has already been taken to court.
Of course you can.
It's already been taken to the court,
and by and large, and these tend to prevail. Thank goodness for people like Alliance Defending Freedom and others who are. We have plenty of states that don't get it yet, but that battle will be won. You absolutely have a right not to have your artistry. Now, if somebody gay comes in and says, I want to buy that chair, you can't deny that you can't do. But if somebody says, we want you to take your artistry, your talents, then it becomes your speech, then that's something that you have certain protective rights over. So the answer to both of those lies in the rights of the business people to have some liberties of their own to exact.
And I agree with the rights of businesses, but unfortunately, those rights of businesses are one-sided, and if it is against my religious belief to do whatever, I am forced, because it's open to the public, to do what they want me to.
Well, like what? I mean, I think we just sort of talked about the court battles that have been won. There have been plenty of court battles won on this, and it may take some time, but I think we're going to get uniformity. What would be something that, let's say, if you owned a business that you think you would be compelled to do against your religious beliefs?
Well, according to the laws that I have read in the court battles, to make a wedding cake or homosexual for
these are some of the things that, by and large, these are cases that are being won, and there will be more of these cases that are being won. And by the way, if there's some if I walk in with something that I want somebody to do, and I just think it's extremely uplifting and wonderful, and it violates their sensibilities, they don't have to do it either, and I can go to another sign shop, or I can go to another cake shop, or other bakery. The marketplace provides so many solutions for this. And it does in the mask things too, because if there's a place with a mask policy, or if there's a place with a vaccine policy, and I don't think there are going to be a whole lot of businesses requiring vaccines by and large, although LSU football will, vaccination or a recent COVID negative test. Do they have the right to do that? Of course they do. And, down there in Baton Rouge, you can either say, no more Go Tigers or not go to those games. In the NFL, here in Cowboys land, Jerry Jones says we will not have a vaccination requirement for home games. In Las Vegas, where the Raiders are, and by the way, the owner of the Raiders, Mark Davis. Thanks a lot for that confusion. They have a vax requirement in Raiderland. Can they do that? Of course they can. And you can either say, yay, that's great, I feel safer at Raiders games, or you could say, screw you, I'll never go to a Raiders game again. Ta-da! The marketplace works. 1-8-Prager-776. We're in Orange County, California. Mark Davis, welcome in for Dennis. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Mark. I have a belief that all of this has been planned and plotted out by the left and globalists of the left. I believe they use the COVID deployment to destabilize non-left governments, and there are a lot of distractions that they introduce: critical race theory, resistance or acceptance of vaccination, shutting down businesses, and then making more people dependent on government. Right now, I think what's going on is that they're allowing Biden to destroy the image of the United States worldwide. They will follow this with terrible inflation and try to destroy the U.S. economy, destroy the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency. These are things that were planned, and they've been executed beautifully by the left. They used rules for radicals that Hillary Clinton wrote about and got her MBA on. They have followed these things to the letter, and it's been very effective.
Yeah, I don't know how many marionette strings you want to attach to some of this in terms of the origins of everything, but when things do, whether it's a virus, which happened, or any one of a number of things that you properly mentioned, Rahm Emanuel quote, never let a good crisis go to waste. We're going to have crises. Crises are going to arise. And the deliciousness of that Rahm Emanuel quote, never let a crisis go to waste. What the meaning of that is that when things go bad, as they will, they'll go economically bad, they'll go epidemiologically bad, there'll be things that'll happen that'll simply be demonstrably bad. And when those things occur, they'll have a certain degree of desperation and a certain degree of panic, a certain degree of fear. And leaders, opportunistic leaders, will always be able to rush in and say, look, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And listen, to be bipartisan about this, because obviously I have tons of examples of Democrats doing it now. There are many people, let's say some conservatives moving toward the libertarian wing, who think that Republicans did this after 9/11. Patriot Act. Oh, never let a crisis go to waste. We've been attacked. So here's all kinds of things we're going to do with NSA surveillance and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that old adage of never let a crisis go to waste, the meaning of that is that there are politicians who have certain goals. They got little things in their vest pocket that they want to do. And if they see a moment in time and a moment in history where they go, aha, I'll bet I can do this now. I bet I can get away with this now. They will try. And so what we in an enlightened public are called to do is to take a look at what people do in the heat of controversy, in the heat of despair, and say, okay, is this a good thing? Is this a wise thing to keep our cool heads? All righty, try to keep a few cool heads around here, and yours as well on the phones. 1-8-Prager-776. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Be right back.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real
trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it. Because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them. Take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument.
Yes, they are. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, which makes sense, M-A-R-K Davis. I'm the Happy Morning host every day here at 6:60 a.m. The Answer in Dallas, Fort Worth. I hope you are well. We're having quite the topical shindig. All kinds of things are going on. Afghanistan, do you think? What do you want done about that? What in the world? I mean, I know we can wring our hands all day and play what-if games. I think I want to try to plow forward, which seems futile because these people are in power. You know, Joe Biden's going to be president, one presumes, for the foreseeable future. And listen, we were talking about worst presidency ever, which I believe this decidedly is. And then you get to an enormous case of be careful what you wish for. Hang on, have I got Lindsey Graham? Yeah, I think I do. Hang on a second. Yeah, there was Lindsey Graham on the TV box last night on with Hannity talking about how he ought to be impeached. This is dereliction of duty. Okay, great. Let's do that. Then what do you have? Then you got her. Then you have President Kamala Harris. You know what's dangerous about her? She does know what she's doing. You know, I would almost rather have senile Joe Biden, who at least has to be led around by the nose in some degree. And there's no good option here. There is no good option here. So do we put all our eggs in the 2022 basket? Do we just put our heads down and dig with all of our might for the kind of resolve that we are going to need in order to take back the House and please the Senate as well in 2022? The primaries of which are just a few months away. So before we even get to the general election in your state and mine, there are going to be primaries. And it's not just about electing Republicans. It's not just about electing people with an R by their name. It's about the right kind of people. It's about the kind of people who actually have conservatism in their hearts. They're fluent in it. It comes off their tongues. It is in their heads. It coats and wraps around their spine. And you got to have that fighting spirit. You have got to. Oh, speaking of the fighting spirit, this is why everybody loves DeSantis. How Trumpian is DeSantis in terms of policies? Looks like he checks the boxes, but at least as important, the fighting spirit. Have you seen the letter that Ron DeSantis wrote to the AP executive after an AP executive sought to scold Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for his press spokesman bullying a reporter? Oh, it's a masterpiece. I'll dig that up here in a segment or two. But for now, let's get back to your thoughts. All right, it is 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. We're in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Helen, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
I've been better.
I hear you there.
I just want to have, my statement is, first of all, this administration, the entire administration, is a joke. And never in my lifetime, in 7-8 months almost, destroying the country and other countries. The Afghanistan mess, what I would like to see are strong Republicans. And I'm from South Carolina. I'm disappointed in my senator, voting for that ridiculous bill. But, my problem with all these liberals and these weak Republicans, if you can't, and you say be calm, but it's hard when you trust your representatives to do the right thing as a Republican, and then they cave.
And I assume you're talking about Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey is almost like schizophrenic, because Lindsey in the impeachment hearings, nothing better. Lindsey at times, incredibly inspiring, striking all the right notes. And then he'll, roll out some policy turd, if you'll excuse me, that involves, dealing across the aisle, or, maybe it's his old shared instincts with his buddy John McCain. Ain't nobody perfect, but there's good Lindsey and there's bad Lindsey.
Really disappointed. We fought really hard to get him back in. He barely won. So I just couldn't believe it with that. And he voted on that, but I'm tired of rhinos. I want Republicans.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'll tell you what, the term Republican is meaningless. What you want is conservatives. What you want is conservatives. There are liberal Republicans. There are weasel Republicans. There are turncoat Republicans. The term Republican, all it means is you belong to a club. You belong to a party. Conservatism says something about you. It requires something of you. It requires something of your head, your heart, and your spine. It's either there or it's not. And we need to be on the lookout. Mark Davison for Dennis. Be right back. Okie doke.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Because all it takes is one example of something that works. And that's why Florida and Hungary, in my opinion, are so similar, right? Is that Florida is the domestic example of a more orderly, common sense approach to the land of the insane, right? And they hate that. Like, we must crush Ron DeSantis. We must crush Viktor Orban, right?
Right, and notice that the people calling for crushing other people are the ones calling you a fascist. So the very people who are like, oh, no, it's totally normal to fire someone from his job because I disagree with them. It's totally normal to beat someone up for having a Trump hat on, a political party that I don't support. Yeah, we should beat him up. It's totally cool to burn your cities on the basis of political ideology, BLM, over the last year and a half. No, it's totally fine. But if you disagree that you're the fascist, it's like at a certain point, I think we're too literal. I know that I certainly am way too literal. Every night, I'm writing my scripts and I'm like, I can't, but it's the opposite of the truth. And at a certain point, that's on me. Of course, it's the opposite of the truth. It's a totalitarian worldview that inverts reality for its own power. Like, that's just what it is. And if I continue to be surprised by it, then I'm the moron. The question is, what do you do about it? And I'm not sure I know the answer. I mean, I'm not in charge of anything. I'm just a talk show host. So my job is just to say it out loud. I think that's a helpful first step. But you can see where this is going. I mean, CNN just fired 3 employees for not getting the vaccine. Just fired them, like right, and no one said anything. Also, that's totally normal. Take a man's livelihood away because he won't take a medicine that you want him to take. that he may not need, that he certainly doesn't want, and he can't work in this country? Like, what do we want to live in that country? I don't.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Now, when it comes to inflation, I want you to think of this. This is an easy way for you to understand or to remember what inflation is if this is a topic that's somewhat new to you. It's when too many dollars, so you have tons of money, chasing too few goods. There's not enough stuff to buy, in other words. Or think of Black Friday. You know how all the stores try to get you in the stores during Christmas season, Thanksgiving, Christmas season, Black Friday. You want to buy all this stuff, and they always advertise this one laptop or this one television set that's going to be sitting right smack in the middle of the department store, and they only have X amount before they're absolutely gone. And obviously their trick is to get you in the store so you can buy other stuff. If you're in California, it's so you can shoplift other stuff. But in other places around the nation, it's so you can buy other stuff. So you walk into this store, you get into, well, you don't walk in on Black Friday. You bum rush that store, or you set in line. You have the money in your hands. You're ready to go. You've got all of this cash you've been saving, and you're just ready to go. You're like, I'm going to get my Christmas shopping done today. You pull up, you see the line, and you're like, wow, everybody else, the 200 people standing in line in front of me have the same amount of money or cash that I do, but there's only 32 of those televisions. Essentially, that's inflation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
And hey, having invoked PragerU, having Dennis invoke PragerU, let me add a little something because it is fundraising month. First of all, hi, if you're just joining us, Mark Davis in for Dennis. I'm your happy morning host at 6:60 a.m. The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. Whenever the bat phone rings, it's always nice to be here as well on the Dennis Prager Show and various other shows on the Salem Radio Network. But as you know, this is fundraising month for PragerU. 5 billion views. PragerU has been educating college and high school students all over the world. See, there's education and there's education. And what I mean by that is education got us into this mess. Real education is the only way out. And I don't want to, paint with a broad brush and say that all higher education is for the birds and it's all a minefield that's going to destroy your brain, but way too much of it is. So support Dennis and the incredible team at PragerU. This week, your contribution will be, ready? Triple matched by a generous donor. I'd like to meet that person. So go to PragerU.com to donate or call 833-PRAGER-U. 833-PRAGER-U or PragerU.com, because that saying of where we teach what isn't taught. There are so many things that are not taught in today's higher education. People are insufficiently taught that this is a magnificent and virtuous nation. Have we had flaws? Have we had sins? Have we had pain? Of course we have. But our journey through those things and past those things, and there will be future controversies and future pains and future sins and future flaws because we're a human system. But what a magnificent example of a torch of liberty this country is, the greatest in the history of humankind. And good luck finding that. Good luck finding that on today's college campuses. And I've stumbled right into something I want to talk to you about. Well, even a blind pig finds an acorn sometimes. I mentioned that this being the first week of school for a lot of kids. Little story. There is a young man who's an incoming freshman at a local university. And this is in Texas, so I guarantee it's various other places. And this is a lovely acquaintance exercise at an orientation or a first day of class. Everybody stand up. Hey, what's your name? Hey, great. Hey, where you from? Hey, that's great. Hey, what's your major? Hey, that's great. And what are your gender preferences? Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, that's where that ends. So, but what do you do? What do? You send your 18-year-old into the buzzsaw of a 38,000, student major campus or a small school. It doesn't matter, whatever. You want him making waves on the first day? Do you want him to be that guy on the first day? Or that gal, as the case may be, speaking of gender preferences. So I guess my question for you, I got loaded lines, so just let this marinate for a little bit. We'll carry this into the next hour and get to it. If you want to, every time I talk to somebody, it frees up a line. So here's my deal. It's your kid. Your kid walks into his first day of college, and they say, "Hey, Bill." God, there are no kids named Bill anymore. Oh, goodness gracious me. Hey, Chad. Where are you? What's your name? Chad. Where are you from? Dallas. What's your major? Architecture. What are your gender preferences? Are you kidding me? I am male. It's obvious. So don't ask me that stupid question. Do you want that to be your kid? Or maybe there's a more tactful way to put it. Maybe they say, you know what? I'm not going to answer the gender preference question because I am male. That's self-evident, so I'm going with that. Is that better? Or do you have them suck it up? His, just live to fight another day? I tell you, I've ruminated about this for most of this week, and I've come down hard on the side of fight back, because when we don't fight back, this is when stuff like this happens. When we don't fight back, this is when it's identified as hate to think that God made two genders and you're one of them or the other. If we don't fight back, this is how you get to the point where parents are able to stuff chemicals into their sons to castrate them and gender mutilate them to turn them into what they are not. This is what happens when we don't fight. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that your kid answering a gender pronoun question, at Arizona State on day one, just to pick a school. Sorry, they may not be doing it. All of a sudden, leads to chemical castration the following day. But no. The premise is as follows: when we don't fight, we lose. By definition, if we don't say no to the ridiculous, if we don't fight back against the absurd, you get more of what you don't fight against. It's a law of physics. If you don't resist, there will be more of it forced into your life. So yeah, I would say, as tactfully as possible, because you don't want to antagonize somebody who has the power to give you grades, just say, look, I'm just not going to go with the gender pronoun question. I'm self-evidently male, or if it's a daughter, I'm an obvious girl. I'm an obvious female. I'm a young woman. And so I don't even answer the gender pronoun question because my obvious womanhood makes that self-evident. Next question, please, or thank you very much, or sheepishly sit down, or proudly sit down, whatever you want to do. That would be my thought. What's yours? 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. You got 60 seconds for the break. Rather than give a caller short shrift, a couple of people want to talk about Larry Elder running for governor. All of us at the Salem Media Group, we are stoked out of our minds about the possibility of losing a colleague. I've semi-jokingly said it's mixed feelings. I don't want to lose the Larry Elder Show. Are you kidding? It's one of my favorite talk shows. I fill in on that thing all the time. And Carl Jackson's doing a great job, by the way, while Larry's busy running for governor, which may well succeed. Here's what would have to happen for it to succeed. California has to get rid of Gavin Newsom. There is no doubt in my mind that if Newsom goes down, Larry Elder is the next governor of California. His ascendancy is real. The passion behind him is real. Nobody else comes close to it. But here's the big bear. You got to get rid of Newsom. Will California actually vote to get rid of Gavin Newsom? And I hope, I pray, I wish. I'll believe it when I see it. Have a couple of words to say about that, and maybe you do too. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Stick around.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it. Because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think.
Do it now. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Dennis is back tomorrow. Glad to be here with you today. 1-8-Prager-776. Always go to DennisPrager.com for all things Dennis. And follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. We are in, let's see here, Lakewood, California. Christian, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you, sir?
Hi, Mark. Good. Thank you for taking my call, man.
My pleasure.
Listen, I love you, and I love Dennis, and I love Larry. I've been a longtime listener, part-time caller. And my main call-in was just to say, look, I mean, maybe there's a whole lot of Americans out there with buyer's remorse, and maybe, just maybe, we should be taking a look at some of these state-level audits that have been ordered by state legislatures like Arizona, and then guys like Mastriano in Pennsylvania. They're fighting the secretaries of state. And I understand the mainstream narrative on it. Oh, these guys are whacks or kooks, but these people are the point of the fight against this bill that they're trying to push through in the House. Now they're calling it the John Lewis bill, whatever, voting rights bill. It's to wash their state level rights.
A word or two.
Anyway, that's my main point.
A word or two about all the audits and stuff. God bless them. That's great. It's an honorable thing to the degree that anybody can actually chronicle with pinpoint accuracy how many votes, where were improperly counted. Good luck with that. I don't know if that will yield something precise that will be actionable. But the good news is, you don't need it. The good do you know? Do I know? Does my dog know that in state after state after state, there were votes counted that shouldn't have been, ballots accepted that shouldn't have been, because rules were dashed against the rocks on the phony altar of COVID urgency? Do we know this like we know our own names? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So take our energy. Instead of a lot of hand-wringing pointing backward, take our energy and move it forward. And all of these states, like my state of Texas, like the good people of Arizona, the good people of Georgia, and a few other states, there should be more, to make sure that we return ballot security, that we do not maintain this eternal world of COVID-related, panic-related, got to have 24-hour, drop your ballot in a box with improper security. We have to have voting that is secure. We have to have voting that allows everybody that wants to vote to cast a legal vote. Every legal vote should count. The good news is there is all kinds of energy in all kinds of states toward bolstering election security moving forward, because we know we got hosed, we know we got screwed, and we got to make sure we are committed to not having that happen again. All righty, 2 hours down. 1 to go. Let's see what happens next. A lot of that's up to you. So come on, 1-8-Prager-776. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, because that's me, filling in for Dennis. And it's great to be here with you. Happy Wednesday. We will continue.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it, because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them, take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: the right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason. They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is really crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military, when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That was textbook. Nobody, not even Julius Caesar, not Napoleon, could do it better. But since then, at the strategic level, Kurt, it's been a disaster.
It's been an utter disaster, and frankly, I'm worried about the tactical level. I'm worried that whether or not we still maintain the tactical capabilities that we need for high-intensity combat operations against peer-level competitors like the Chinese, especially, and I write about this in my Monday Town Hall column, Dr. Gorka, especially when you look at the Navy. For nearly 70 years, it has glided on the legacy of the military triumphs in the Pacific theater over the Japanese. And we relied on, we consoled ourselves saying, well, you know, the Chinese technology is getting better. They're getting more and more ships, but we have a naval tradition. You know what? So did the Carthaginians. Okay, the Romans had no navy until they found a Carthaginian warship that had run aground. They copied it, they trained, and they beat the hell out of Carthage. You can find Roman ruins, can't find any Carthaginian ruins.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Essentially, that's inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. This from Reuters. Tyson Foods Incorporated cannot increase prices for chicken and prepared foods fast enough to keep pace with rising costs for raw materials like grain due to Bidenflation. Bidenflation. Say it with me. Tyson increased their prices to their restaurant customers, and you're thinking like, okay, so what? I don't care if they increase it to their restaurant customers. That's for people that are going out. We're not going out to eat anymore. It's not going to affect us. Aha. Yes, it will. As of September 5th, the retail prices are going to rise significantly for the consumers. Can you say thank you, Biden? Can you say thank you, Biden? Guys, I want to tell you, and I don't say this lightly, but make sure you stash some cash at home. Make sure you stash a little more food at home than normal. We're not getting away from inflation. Not with this administration in the White House. It's just not going to happen. They are spending like crazy. They're spending our money. The CEO of Tyson Chicken said, and I quote, he said, we've seen unprecedented.
There's deep meaning there. Let us stipulate that the average hour of the Dennis Prager Show usually does not open with the Stones and Hang Fire or virtually anything else by the Stones. But hey, it's me, and Charlie Watts just died, so it's going to happen. Mark Davison for Dennis this one day. Dennis is back tomorrow. A little Hang Fire from, what is that, Tattoo You, circa 1981. The great Charlie Watts, bless his heart. The show must go on. The Stones No Filter Tour, they will be wheeled out on stage in varying stage. Jagger, I don't know what to do about it. Jagger, didn't they open his heart, like a ripe watermelon not long ago, and then just weeks later he's in some dance studio just still hopping around like a whirling dervish? I don't know what's going on there. And there's just no explaining Keith Richards. There was a wonderful meme that indicated that at some point we're going to need to have a national conversation about what kind of world we are going to leave for Keith Richards, who, all I can say is heroin is a preservative. I just don't know. Charlie was older than Keith. Keith is like, here, hang on a second. We talked about it today. I think he's 77. Alexa, how old is Keith Richards?
Keith Richards is 77 years old.
Yeah, 77.
He was born on
I don't need the full biography, woman. Anyway, yeah, and I saw on the occasion of Charlie Watts passing all kinds of tributes. There was a wonderful, beautiful one from Paul McCartney, and they ran some video of Keith talking about Charlie Watts, and Keith looked like he was near death. And it was like, I'm playing guitar, and Johnny be drums, and we try to stay in time, try to trap each other out, and I'd be a little bit behind the beat, he'd be ahead of the beat. It was like, ah! And it was 20 years ago. It was like Keith in his late 50s looking like a cadaver. But the words were beautiful. The tribute was heartfelt, as are all the tributes for this amazing gentleman, Charlie Watts, drummer of the Rolling Stones. The Stones No Filter Tour goes on. I think it opens in St. Louis in about a month. It'll hit here in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl on November 2nd. When by then the temperature should be below 105 degrees, so that'll be cool. And Steve Palmer, is that his name? Guy who's done, he had already been slated because Charlie was having some health issues, so it was already clear the Stones were going to go on tour with another drummer, a young man who's done a lot of, well, maybe not that young, who's done some work with Keith Richards in the past. So anyway, so the show goes on, and as I said in the morning show, Charlie won't be there, but in a way, yes, he will, for every date on that Stones tour. All right. With that, let's turn to some folks about a wide variety of other things. 866-660-575. It's a local number. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Like I say, I do one show and sometimes keep the phone number active. 1-8-PRAGER-776 is the national one. Oh, yeah, I know that. DennisPrager.com. I know that. I should know my own name. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. I know that. So let's see what else I know and don't as we go to your calls. 1-8-PRAGER-776. We've talked about the California. I got some thoughts to share about the California recall. I got some, can Larry win? Yes. If you guys out there can gather the passion to get rid of Gavin Newsom. That is a huge if. It is an enormous mountain to climb. Can you do it? I believe you can. Do I know that you will? No, I do not. Do I have a kind of an I'll believe it when I see it feeling about that? Yes, I do. But I'll tell you what, it's September 14th. It's out there for you. Now, let's talk about competing energies, right? Competing waves of enthusiasm. There's an obvious wave of enthusiasm about Larry. This is why he, in a large field, is dominating. And that's not by accident. It's because Larry's awesome. I watched him on Tucker. Did you see the opening segment of Tucker Carlson last night? What an enormous love letter to Larry that was. It was great. It just ridiculing the LA Times for calling him the black face of white supremacy. You cannot make this stuff up. These people have lost it. Anyway, so is there passion surrounding Larry? Of course there is. Now, here's the deal. You got to get rid of Gavin Newsom first. Larry can be the most popular thing in the world, and it won't come to anything if you don't get rid of Gavin Newsom. That's what you've got to do out there in the formerly Golden State. So will that happen? I don't know. Because all the people who are passionate about Larry, they know that. And so the first thing they're going to do is answer question number one. Do you want to get rid of Gavin Newsom? Yes, 1,000 times yes. And then if that prevails, then we go to the second question, which is, okay, whom do you wish as a successor? And I tell you, Larry would win that. But the big if, the monstrous mountain-size if, is will you get rid of Gavin Newsom? And here's the weirdness. Here's the oddity working here. And this may be overanalyzing by a degree, or maybe not. I don't know. I'll tell you this. It's in Gavin Newsom's head. Larry is in his head. And there's Gavin Newsom traipsing around all over the state saying, hey, what kind of judges would he appoint? What kind of senator would he appoint? Because we all know Dianne Feinstein will soon join Charlie Watts in heaven. And at that point, if the governor appoints a successor, what if that successor is Larry? Get a big honking conservative senator from California. Be still my heart. Oh, it's almost too much to ask for. But here's the deal. Might that energize California Democrats? There are a ton of California Democrats who don't give a flip about Gavin Newsom anymore. In fact, probably agree that he hasn't been real great in running the state. But present them with the notion of a hardcore conservative governor who might appoint a hardcore conservative senator. It's like, oh, Lord, can't have that. I guess I'll go vote for Gavin Newsom. So you got that phenomenon. So the bottom line here is if everybody who wants change in California, and the genius thing about Larry's campaign is he has not generally been walking around talking about what a liberal scourge Gavin Newsom is, because it's California. They love liberal scourges. By and large, you keep electing them. Now, what Larry's talked about is that this is a broken state. We have a state to save, the wonderful slogan that's an offshoot of his we have a country to save that he has used so skillfully on the radio. We have a state to save. Our education system is in the crapper. Our economy is in the crapper. And in Californians, we can do better than this. That's the kind of appeal that crosses party lines. So I am willing to step into the strike zone and take one for the team and lose my friend Larry Elder as a broadcast colleague and lose him on the radio in order to have him run California and thus make that state, and perhaps even our nation with the appointment of a senator, better. Bottom line is, the bottom line is, Larry is my friend. And if he wants something, I want it for him. So there you go. God bless this man. He is everything you want him to be. He's just a magnificent soul. Electelder.com, I think, is the website to help him out in that regard, which is a good idea. Okay, here's another good idea. Let's grab some calls, and that's 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We have talked about your kid, first week in college, being asked for gender pronouns. Should they even answer that? Right down the road from me in Dallas, Robert is here. Hey, Robert. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Wednesday. How are you?
Mr. Davis, pick me.
Okay.
I've got the answer for you.
Wow.
Sorry, a little horse shack for you.
No problem.
Before I get to that, I think you may have offended Alexa by assuming she was a woman. And I would also love to hear a conversation between Keith Richards and Ozzy Osbourne, but whatever.
That would be something.
If I am at this meet and greet, first day of college, freshman, whatever it is, I have the perfect answer. I would say, my name's Robert, I'm from Texas, and that individual across the room is extraordinarily beautiful, pointing to it.
Oh, great. So you're going to get thrown out of college for two reasons. Kidding. Well, I know we laugh lest we cry. 1-8-PRAGER-776. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Let's do it. I got about 45 seconds left. So let me shape up a couple of the following things and recover briefly. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. All things Dennis at DennisPrager.com. And let's see. You remember like a couple of hours ago, I told you that we were due to hear from Secretary of State Antony Blinken. We didn't miss that. This must be the day or the week of the Biden White House for delays on top of other delays. If he starts talking, I'm not going to cover it wall-to-wall live, but I'll listen in and see what we got. Highlights or lowlights there. Be right back.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it. Because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980 out there somewhere. Indeed, I think we're going to wipe out the Democrats. This country does not want to be a socialist country. And the Democrats are socialists. All of them. They all voted for it. Now it's going to go to the House. It's a pure transfer of wealth. It's taking the money you earned. They're going to tax at death everything you've got. They're going to not raise the basis. Your houses, your farms, your businesses. They're going to take them away from your kids and tax them, make them sell them, take 45 to 55% of that and put it into their plans to pay their buddies off in the teachers' unions. And they're going to mask your kids, and they're going to ignore your demands that critical race theory be booted out. And you know what? Time to rise and fight again.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: the
I know what I think. I think that's fantastic. Now let me know what you think. Mark Davis filling in for Dennis today. Dennis is back tomorrow. Phone number is 1-8-Prager-776. And as I get ready to head back to your calls, man, have I got a piece of television you are going to want to catch tomorrow. Maybe you have not been in the great habit, especially of late, of dialing into the big-time network news products, but Lester Holt at NBC is going to talk to someone tomorrow, and it is going to be riveting, and I don't even know what the person will say. It'll be riveting because I don't even know who the person is, and neither do you, but we're about to. Tomorrow, Thursday, NBC's Lester Holt will interview the Capitol police officer who shot Ashley Babbitt. My, haven't there been a few things said about him? It has been a weird disconnect that if a police officer, looks sideways at a black guy at a traffic stop, we're going to know who he is. But let somebody shoot Ashley Babbitt coming through the window of the Capitol. And by the way, if you don't want to get shot, don't come through the window of the Capitol. Lessons of January 6th. But did there need to be a death penalty for coming through the window of the Capitol? That would be no. And there's been a lot of mystery here. And it's like, what? How do we not know who this person is? And what should the accountability be there? Was that in any way a justified shooting? And there's been huge mystery because there's this protective shroud around some of the Capitol-based police forces where we don't get to know who they are. Well, apparently we're going to know now. Lester Holt, tomorrow, will interview the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt, and we'll know who this guy is. All right. I'll let that marinate with you there for a while as we get back to your calls. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776, and we are in Los Angeles. Patrick, hey. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi.
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
Listen, just a quick thing. I wanted to talk about the recall on Gavin Newsom. I'm not sure if voters know that the left has basically kind of enhanced the ballot. And what happens is, it's got the 50% if you vote for or against, the recall. You mark the little box, and then, if once you're done and you put everything in the envelope, but if you were to send it, there are holes in the envelope, and it will show if you voted yes or no. So people need to know they need to fold their ballot. If they're going to send it in, fold their ballot and not let those show through the holes, because then, in my opinion, anybody can see, like, okay, all these people voted, for the recall, so we'll just throw those out. I mean, it opens up fraud, in my opinion.
It does, and it might not be as easy or obvious as that. And in fact, I went and did a little homework that's going to pay off right now. And I thank you for bringing this up because, but listen, we're in no mood as a country. We shouldn't be for anything that erodes in any sense of what should be our right to an abiding sense of election security. Bottom line is, some of the ballot envelopes have little holes in them. Like, it's part of processing. Sure it is. And listen, maybe it is. Pardon me for my cynicism. But I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's go to Fox 5 in San Diego. Here is a reporter named Ashley Zavala, and she has a story about that.
Note that this is not happening in every single county, only with those who use certain ballot processing equipment and those who had their ballots printed in a certain way. In this photo from a Nevada County viewer, a hole on the side of the recall ballot envelope exposes an unfilled ballot bubble. Another photo shows that when removed from the envelope, the unfilled bubble is one of the options on ballot question 1, shall Gavin Newsom be recalled from the office of governor? This is not the case for every county. Donna Johnston with the California Association of Clerks and Elections Officials explains.
So voters have control as to how they place the ballot into the envelope. There's some counties have a completely blank side of the ballot. They could fold it that direction, so there's absolutely nothing showing when they place it in the envelope. Some of the holes do not correspond with some counties' envelopes with any information on the ballot whatsoever.
Why did these holes exist on the ballot at all?
They're for different reasons. One reason is that they help identify that the ballot's been extracted from the envelope for the counties that use processing equipment. And the others, the holes are placed so that a visually impaired voter will know exactly where to sign the envelope. So it's on either side of the area that they're supposed to sign.
According to Political Data Inc.'s recall ballot return tracker, more than 500,000 ballots have been returned to local elections officials, about 3% of all ballots. For those who already turned in their ballots, possibly with answers exposed, Johnston says those voters should not worry.
Elections officials are very hardworking, dedicated people who are just trying to help get every vote to count. They want to make sure that every ballot gets processed and so forth. So they are not concerned with how somebody voted, but making sure that their ballot is properly cast.
Okay. Ashley Zavala on Fox 5 San Diego. And what the lovely lady with the Association of Clerks and such, that is the way it's supposed to be. And by and large, I believe that is the way it is. But how much fraud do you need? How much skullduggery do you need? How much mischief will it take to throw this election or any given election? We're never going to have a perfect election. No human system will ever yield a perfect election. But we should always have an abiding sense that we are doing everything we can to get as close to perfection as we can, to be as secure as we can be. We are in Bakersfield. Jack, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Dandy, yourself?
Hi, great.
Good. Hey, I was just wanting to encourage people to find out where their ballot signature verification is going on and get down there and be observers, because you can sit back and watch the screen, and I've been doing that. And when you challenge it, they feel intimidated. But I've watched them pass signatures where there's supposed to be a second signature on the ballot. There's no signature there, and they pass it. Or there's obviously one's printed and one's signed, and they pass it. So this may be, I hope it's not a nightmare. Jack, thank you. I just, dude, it's California. It's California. And I know there are people out there going, the fix is already in. And I don't want to be that jaded. I don't. There had better be just every set of eyeballs on every procedure, on every vote counting venue. Journalists are supposed to do this. Can we maybe count on that to some degree, even in the formerly Golden State? I hope so. I hope so. Democracy hangs in the balance. Mark Davison for Dennis Prager. More of your calls coming up next. 1-8-Prager-776. Stick around.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Eric, I have campaign expenditure limitations. Gavin Newsom does not. He can raise and spend an unlimited amount of money. And shortly after it was obvious I was going to get into the race, the union, SEIU union, gave him $5 million for the anti-recall side. And just a couple of days ago, the teachers union, the largest funder of his campaign, gave him an additional $1.8 million. It is estimated he's going to raise a minimum of $50 million, maybe as much as $75 million to defeat me. You were praising my courage. Let me just say something about that. I get that a lot, and I have to push back because I'm not storming the beaches of Normandy. Unlike my father, I was never a Marine. Unlike my older brother, I was never a member of the Navy. Like my little brother, I was never a member of the Army. I did not serve. And about all the things I've ever done in my life, that's probably the thing that I regret the most, that I didn't give back a few years to my country. So this is a small sacrifice. I'm losing a little bit of money, well, actually a lot of money compared to my net worth. And of course, nobody's lived a pure life, and anything and everything I've ever done will be exposed and will be twisted. And I know that I'll be assuming that. But this is a small price to pay for a country that I love so much and for a state that I love so much.
Well, that's why you are who you are. You have perspective. You were talking about your father. You've been on this program before talking about your father. And when you've lived that kind of a life and you see what real sacrifice looks like, it's natural for you to do things that other people say, well, that's brave or that's heroic. You just think, well, what are you talking about? This is basic stuff. I've been living in a country that allowed me to succeed and to say what I want. How can I not fight for that? And again, I think sometimes things have to get very bad before people finally wake up.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Talent, I think it's a very crafty strategy. It's the reverse of the Reagan strategy. Expand the entitlement culture to the point that it bankrupts the United States and we have to withdraw from the world.
But I mean, look, the interest on the federal debt last year was about $380 billion, with treasuries at 2%, right? So what happens when the Fed jacks up interest rates, as they will, in order to fight inflation? So if it goes to 4%, it's going to cost us another $400 billion to service the debt. The entire discretionary budget is about what, $1.7 trillion? So that's more than a quarter of the entire discretionary budget.
Yeah, I had a senior Trump administration official tell me last night, the only way out will be to devalue the currency. You get to do that once, and you're no longer the reserve currency.
They're going to debase. Well, it is debasing the currency. This is, I think, to show that they can do something big and beat the Republicans. I mean, I don't want to be uncharitable. And yeah, there's a lot of bad policies. You've talked about the death tax, and you're right. They're eliminating work for all these welfare programs. So we're going to be treated to millions and millions of able-bodied people getting all this, these benefits and not working because it doesn't make any sense for them to work. I mean,
it's economically rational to stay home, especially when they extended the rent moratorium. They screwed small landlords everywhere in the United States, but they also increased the incentive not to go back to work. You don't have a rent bill to pay.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Burka.
Let's talk about something that's not superb, and that's Sasha, don't call me Mr. Vindman, and his flip-flops and his posing around.
That they do. That's why they're awesome. PragerU.com. Donate. Keep this alive. This is unbelievably valuable. And enjoying the valuable time with you today. Mark Davis in for Dennis today. Dennis is back tomorrow. I'm your happy morning host at 6:60 a.m. The Answer in Dallas, Fort Worth. You can find me there at 660amtheanswer.com. Just follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. I will drag you lovingly into everything in my world. And I appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for letting me share your world on the radio here in the homestretch half hour. Let us see where we go. I've been waiting all show. I mean, I really, at first, the program starts here in Central Time at 11 o'clock in the morning. And like at 11:15, it was like, we are expecting comments from Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. It's like, okay, I'll pay a little bit of attention to that, see if he says something coherent. Nothing. So I'm still got my eyes on the Secretary of State, or the State Department briefing room there at Foggy Bottom. And if he pops out, we'll listen in and see if he attempts to put lipstick on this pig any further. This Afghanistan thing it's just a cluster for the ages. So there's this and COVID policy stuff and various things about the California recall. Anything else you may want to throw to us? Glad to have you here at 1-8-Prager-776. Let's go up the road from me just a piece. We're in Plano, Texas. Karen, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, I was just calling in to see if anybody else has noticed some of the fine print on Pfizer's website versus what the CDC is posting about the supposed FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine.
Like what?
Like it seems to be, in the way it's written, approved for further emergency use versus FDA approved. See the nuance?
Well, I do. I've been familiar with the stories and what the FDA itself said, and it spoke of full approval and not just further emergency use. So from where, if you got anything in front of you, that would be great. From where do you see any type of verbiage that would seem to indicate something less than full approval and merely for further emergency use? From where would you glean that?
From the Pfizer website.
No, I mean, if you got it in front of you, because, I mean, words have meaning.
Yes.
Share it with me.
I do have, let's see. The Pfizer, this is from August 23rd. The Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has not been approved or licensed by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, but has been authorized for emergency use by the FDA under emergency use authorization.
Right. That's in the past. That was up till now. That's the past.
Right, but for use in individuals 12 years of age and older, the emergency use of this product is only authorized for the duration of the declaration of the circumstances. So it doesn't say anywhere on their website that it's fully FDA approved. However, the CDC, which I have a hard time believing all the time.
Well, then, okay. I don't know what we're all looking for, whatever, looking under every rock. FDA. Here's the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The FDA approval of this vaccine is a milestone as we continue to battle the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. It is absolutely full approval. The thing about 12 to 15-year-olds in the FDA press release, since December 2020, the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has been available under EUA, that's emergency use authorization, in individuals 16 years of age and older. And the authorization was expanded to include those 12 through 15 on May 10th, 2021. EUAs can be used by the FDA during public health emergencies to provide access to medical products that may be affected, blah, 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 blah. But if you're sitting there thinking, ooh, there's scurrilous small print that means it's not real FDA approval, I can disabuse you of that now. It is fully FDA approved. Glad to be of service.
Okay.
All righty. We are in St. Petersburg. Lois. Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm great. Nice to have you.
Good. I just heard you a little while ago. I was in my car saying, the mantra of the libs that always say, never let a crisis go to waste.
That's right.
And it just occurred to me that their true corollary is, and never let a crisis go.
Oh, that's so golden. Exactly. You never let a crisis go to waste, and then just make a refrigerator magnet and take those last two off. Never let it go. Never let it go away. These people would love to keep us under the COVID jackboot for as long as possible. Lois, you're awesome. Mark Davison for Dennis. Be right back. All right. Oh, okay, no problem.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: the right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason. They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy, and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Burka.
this is really crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military, when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That was textbook. Nobody, not even Julius Caesar, not Napoleon, could do it better. But since then, at the strategic level, Kurt, it's been a disaster.
It's been an utter disaster, and frankly, I'm worried about the tactical level. I'm worried that whether or not we still maintain the tactical capabilities that we need for high-intensity combat operations against peer-level competitors like the Chinese, especially, and I write about this in my Monday Town Hall column, Dr. Gorka, especially when you look at the Navy. For nearly 70 years, it has glided on the legacy of the military triumphs in the Pacific theater over the Japanese. And we relied on, we consoled ourselves saying, well, you know, the Chinese technology is getting better. They're getting more and more ships, but we have a naval tradition. You know what? So did the Carthaginians. Okay, the Romans had no navy until they found a Carthaginian warship that had run aground. They copied it, they trained, and they beat the hell out of Carthage. You can find Roman ruins, can't find any Carthaginian ruins.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Essentially, that's inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. This from Reuters. Tyson Foods Incorporated cannot increase prices for chicken and prepared foods fast enough to keep pace with rising costs for raw materials like grain due to Bidenflation. Bidenflation. Say it with me. Tyson increased their prices to their restaurant customers, and you're thinking like, okay, so what? I don't care if they increase it to their restaurant customers. That's for people that are going out. We're not going out to eat anymore. It's not going to affect us. Aha. Yes, it will. As of September 5th, the retail prices are going to rise significantly for the consumers. Can you say thank you, Biden? Can you say thank you, Biden? Guys, I want to tell you, and I don't say this lightly, but
.660 AM, The Answer, Dallas-Fort Worth. Always a joy to be here. And let's see how many folks we can meet on the radio in the final 16 minutes of show here. Let us go to Bernie, Texas. Margot. Hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What a lovely community you have down there. I love it down there.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
You bet, no problem.
So I have a comment that you were saying about Lester Holt interviewing the Capitol Police officer tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And I don't believe he will be exposed or a name used. I think he'll be behind a screen. They might even garble his voice, but there'll be no way. This is for TV ratings, but we will never know who this police officer is.
It's funny because when I saw the headline, and headline was Lester Holt to interview Capitol Police officer who shot Ashley Babbitt, I wonder if there might be some dramatic shadow shroud in that electronically altered voice. When I saw her coming through the window, pardon me, I don't mean to be glib about that. And I wondered if that wasn't the case. So I looked around at some of the articles, and it looks like he absolutely will be. Let me give you the paragraph from The Hill. The interview, set to air Thursday, will be the first time the officer publicly reveals his identity since the events of that day. So there you are. How do you think that will go? What happens?
I'm very surprised.
Yeah. Why?
I guess we'll find out tomorrow night.
Yeah, let me add, because I'm intrigued. There are a couple of reasons that could be. what you seem to think that and I, by the way, I wouldn't have disagreed with you as recently as yesterday, that we'll never know who this person is. Why do you suppose?
I don't know. I truly do not know. Why would they expose him? Because they think the radical right is just going to come after him.
Well, I don't know if the radical right. Well, guess what? They probably will. I think this, and I think this dude's life is about to go right into the crapper as soon as he becomes known. Because it only takes a sliver. I think. Listen, there are going to be people who will say that his action was justified. There'll be people who say his action was absolutely unjustified, and that debate will take place between law-abiding, decent people. But there's going to be a sliver of some folks who are going to go, this is for Ashley, and they're going to come after him. And I don't mean necessarily violently or whatever, but it is an interesting development, as the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt will be interviewed by Lester Holt tomorrow, and by all indications, identified. All righty, let us see. 1-8-Prager-776. We are in Corbin, Kentucky. Hey, Scott. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Can you hear me
nice
okay?
to have you. I sure can.
Okay. Yeah, I think I got an answer maybe out of the Word that can answer some of the things going on today.
Yeah.
And it's 2 Timothy chapter 4. It's actually, that whole thing is really good, but I'm just going to read verse 3 and verse 4.
Be my guest.
For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears. 4. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables.
That is quality time spent. They will not endure sound doctrine. This is so Prager-esque. How perfect for you to put it into a show that bears his name. That actual truth, enduring truth, inalienable truth, unshakable concepts are kryptonite to some people, because everything has to be changeable. Everything has to be situational. Some things are right on Tuesday, but they're not right on Thursday. Or they may be right in this decade, but not in that. Oh, and by the way, attitudes absolutely do change. Mores absolutely do change. Our standards absolutely do change. But, and often properly so, often totally improperly so. And when it's improper, it's because we've jacked with something that is eternal. I am a man. Nothing can change that. God has rules. Nothing can change them. And, so when we seek to change attitudes about minorities or attitudes about women and, et cetera, and actually give women the right to vote and free people from slavery, those are awesome changes. Those are good. And there are others, and listen, I'm working on some right now. It's called protecting the unborn. That's going to be a big change when we're no longer cavalier about babies in the womb. There are more changes coming down the pipeline. But the notion of inviolable truth, which Scripture is teeming with, that's why it so frightens those who worship at what we might call another altar, the altar of situational ethics. We are in Long Beach, California. John, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Hi. Say, I'd like to offer maybe a little bit of hope about the California election. I recently moved out of Long Beach and relocated back to my home state, and I spent most of the last 5 years there, and there's a tremendous number of people who put out the volunteer effort to get these signatures, and they're very organized and they're very committed. And I really believe that they're going to be election volunteers and observers who are going to hold everyone's feet to the fire regarding legitimacy of this election.
I hope that is inspiring to hear. Absolutely inspiring to hear. I sure do hope. Boy, do I hope that is that's the case. I deeply appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The clock is a cruel taskmaster. All right. Anthony Blinken is at the microphone. We're almost fresh out of time. I may duck in for about a minute. That's about all we'll have on the other side. So sit tight, and we'll hear our Secretary of State. That'll fill you with inspiration and good feelings, I'm sure. And then we'll wrap up the tent and let Dennis come back and have his show tomorrow. Sound good? It does to me. Mark Davison for Dennis. We'll conclude in just a moment.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
On top of the collapse of the commitment to free enterprise represented by the Democratic Party's full embrace of socialism and the passage of a full-on socialist budget by Bernie Sanders in the Senate, after already $4 trillion of spending over 2 years, it will mean $8 trillion of printed money. I was feeling pretty low last night, saying, my gosh, what have we done for 20 years? What have we been fighting for 40 years? If we're just going to be a socialist backwaters country that can't keep our commitments to people we fight for, we pull it, because I began my life with the fall of southern Vietnam, helicopters on the embassy in Saigon. I went to college. I was a sophomore in college when that happened, 1975. And here we are. Kabul will look that way within 30 days. You just realize there's a 1994 out there somewhere. There's a 1980.
In celebrating the life and work of the great Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts, we've done a lot of records from the 70s and the 80s, but that's 1965 and cover of Sam Cooke's Good Times. That wonderful little drum roll work there of Charlie Watts on the same album that had Can't Get No Satisfaction. There you go. Album was called Out of Our Heads. Scared the living daylights out of parents in 1965. All righty, speaking of being frightened, here's Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. Anthony, excuse me. He does start with an answer to a question, because he says a lot of people are wondering how many Americans are left in Afghanistan who are trying to get out, and he offers the following.
Based on our analysis, starting on August 14,
When our evacuation operations began, there was then a population of as many as 6,000 American citizens in Afghanistan who wanted to leave. Over the last 10 days, roughly 4,500 of these Americans have been safely evacuated, along with immediate family members. Over the past 24 hours, we've been in direct contact with approximately 500 additional Americans and provided specific instructions on how to get to the airport safely. We'll update you regularly on our progress in getting these 500 American citizens out of Afghanistan. For the remaining roughly 1,000 contacts that we had, who may be Americans seeking to leave Afghanistan, we're aggressively reaching out to them multiple times a day through multiple channels of communication, phone, email, text messaging, to determine whether they still want to leave and to get the most up-to-date information and instructions to them for how to do so.
To determine if they still want to leave. You know, I've thought about it, and all other things being equal, it's starting to look like a pretty sweet deal over here in the suburbs of Kabul. I think I'm going to stick around, ride this out, see how it goes. Trust me on this. They all want to go. Now, listen, there may be somebody with family roots, and I don't mean to be overly glib about this. Might there be some who want to stick it out? Knock yourselves out. Let's see how that goes. But the question that I'm going to have, and that Dennis will have, and that you will have, and that will bear a lot of further discussion between now and the remaining 6 days before this infernal artificial deadline of August 31st, how in the world do you get them to the airport? An airport totally controlled by the Taliban. After August 31st, what in the world do we do for those who will still be left behind? Because there will surely be some. And again, those numbers, there were about 6,000, said they got about 4,000 out, 4,500, leaving about 1,500. Let's say they bat 900. That leaves only, 150 or so, 150 Americans. Let's say that it's maybe only 12. Let's say it's 1. We'll see how it all goes. God help us and stay in a solid state of prayer. For Sean, William, Jennifer, thanks for the wonderful, wonderful experience. I'm Mark Davis. Follow me on Twitter @Mark Davis. Dennis Prager tomorrow. Be back when they ask me. Have a great day.